Welcome back, everybody, to This Is My Bourbon Podcast. I am your host, Perry, and I hope you have had a wonderful week. Hope you enjoyed last week's episode with Logan from The Bond. And I hope that you are excited for yet another week of This Is My Bourbon Podcast. It's episode 398. Next week, we're going to be headed to Bourbon and Beyond. I'm going to be headed to Bourbon and Beyond. Going to be chatting with some industry folk, talking about how bourbon is doing in the world right now, and going to be interviewing plenty of musical acts from the festival as well. But that's not what we're doing this week. This week, we're going to be tasting through all three of the releases from the Heaven Hill Grain to Glass series from 2025. Just got in the Wheated Bourbon edition from this year's lineup, and wanted to do all three of the products side by side. That's what we got on the horizon. But you can also get some bonus content and support the show every single month by heading to patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast. From $1 a month, you get access to our Discord. From $5 a month, that's where the bonus content kicks in. And I appreciate everybody over there who supports the show. We got a new Patreon member as well that I'll be saying thank you to towards the end of the episode. I think that's all I'm going to say up top before we hop right into our first segment of the show, which is known as Flying Blind, where I try something I haven't ever had before, or something that I have not had in a while and need to refamiliarize myself with. And it is the latter half of that sort of thing on this week's episode of the podcast. I am going to be tasting a bit of the Spring 2025 edition of Old Fitzgerald Bottled and Bond. This is from my media sample that is not focusing well on the camera. If you're watching the video version, I apologize. But if you're just on the audio edition, it doesn't really matter to you because I'm just explaining what it is. But this was a 9-year-old bourbon that was, of course, Bottled and Bond, 100 proof. It's their wheated distillate, of course, that goes into the Old Fitzgerald line. I just wanted to get a taste of some of Heaven Hill's regular wheated bourbon before going into the special or the alternate version of what their wheated bourbon is. Because for those who don't know, what is in the grain to glass product is actually not it is not what am I trying to say? Their traditional mash bill. Sorry. So I just wanted to kind of give myself a point of reference as well within the confines of this episode to see what the differences might be here. If you also know about my recent experiences with Old Fitzgerald Bottled and Bond, it's not always been the most positive over the past few years. I don't even know. Have I reviewed this recently? I think I might have. I don't even know exactly what to search here. I did it on a live stream back in May, and I don't know how I thought about it back then. So this is kind of going to be a little blind. It smells a little perfumey. Slight bit of oak, kind of a like red berry note on the nose as well. Overall, not bad. That's really nice. You know, I was thinking about this as I was pouring the 9-year-old expression here, and it makes me think about the new 7-year, shelf stable is how I've been describing it, version of the Old Fitzgerald Bottled and Bond. And to me, that 7 year is supposed to represent, a more, less like special edition, special version of what this decanter series is, and just offer people, a reason to maybe, check out one of the decanter bourbons and stretch their dollar a little bit further, go for something that they might not regularly pick up. And this is just kind of like off-base commentary in general about what kind of corner Heaven Hill might have painted themselves into. But now, 8 or 9 years old is as low as they could probably go with the decanter series, unless they have just the most special 7-year-old bourbon that they could possibly put into the decanter. Truthfully, it's gotta, stand out so significantly, or, be so significantly different from what they're putting into the shelf stable offering that is, $60 and age stated at 7 years old, that if it's not, gonna blow you away, it's not gonna be worth it to, spend that extra money. So it's curious to me what they might do here in the near future. But anyway, that's just something of an aside that I was thinking about while I was pouring this. But anyway, let's talk about what I've been drinking recently, because I've had some fun over the past week. After I got done recording with Logan last Friday at the Paddock Bourbon Club, I actually hung out there for a little while. I was at the bar, and the bar manager there, her name is Haley. She's an old friend, not Haley from Wilderness Trail, different Haley. She said, you need to go over and meet this gentleman who is from the Brothers Wright. That is a brand out of Eastern Kentucky that I had heard of before, but I had never really engaged with them, and needed to actually, meet face to face and everything. And super nice guy, and he wound up, as we got to talking, buying me a pour of the 2024 Maker Cellar Aged, which was excellent. One of his friends that also is, part of the team with the Brothers Wright, came in, and we got to talking more about the actual product that they make, and they got me a pour of their barrel proof as well. And I got to try that, and I was very, very pleasantly surprised by their product. Not to say that I was going in with any kind of reservations necessarily, but I think that a lot of us feel a little bit of, hesitation towards anything that feels inherently gimmicky, right? With something that has not really been done before. And, that the reason that the first guy, and I believe his name was Tanner, bought me the pour of the Maker Cellar Aged was kind of twofold. The first one was that's what he typically gets when he's at the Paddock Bourbon Club, and the other was because it was reminiscent of what they're doing with the Brothers Wright and their products. So it's not like it's something that is inherently revolutionary with their product line, but they also there's something of a distinct difference between the two. but also, and I got into this conversation with the second gentleman, and I could be wrong. I believe his name was Evan, and I apologize if either of them are listening. I hope that they are, because we really hit it off, and I'd love to have them on the podcast soon. But I was talking about how hard it is to push craft or smaller bourbon brands on things like podcasts these days with like one hit. And by that, I mean like one media appearance or one opportunity for them to, come on and push a product. And this was not like a slight against them or anything. It was just me explaining that, without inherent follow through or showing that, they're not just coming on to post about their first or push their first line of products, and then there's nothing of a follow up. People are going to have a hard time, being engaged or being invested in what they're putting out. And so we got into a little bit of a discussion about that, and trying the product with them, hearing their story and everything. I mean, it was something that made me want to bring them on the show and talk more about what they're doing. And I think it's an important thing to, it gives me a bit of like reason to not necessarily do like research by having to vet guests every single time that I'm offered them the opportunity to come on the podcast, but at least like, be a little bit more engaged with them before I like sit down and find angles or find, reason for them to be, further a part of what we do now with the show, because like they're, not everything's going to be Heaven Hill. Not everything's going to be, whatever Wilderness Trail. Things are such a different landscape these days, and it's hard to put it into context without really understanding what that world looks like. Anyway, bit of a ramble. I apologize, but I also went tailgating for the UK game on Saturday of this past week. Ran into Matt Preston, who is one of the head honchos at the Lexington Bourbon Society. He and his buddies had brought a liter of Weller 12. So I got a little pour of that, and it was an excellent bottle of Weller 12. Just absolutely spectacular. Ran over to another tailgate and met a guy that I have been talking with online for a while. His name is Austin Shuck. And I cannot remember off the top of my head what his podcast name is. Oh, it's What the Shuck. Of course it is. I'm stupid. But we got to talking for a little while. He had brought a bottle of Never Say Die, and I shot a quick little TikTok review, which I had never done before in that capacity, and it should be out on TikTok by now. Well, I mean, really all social media, but I was filming it with TikTok in mind. But it was great to run into him. I mean, we'd just been talking for a good while at this point. And he's going to be at Bourbon and Beyond as well. And I look forward to getting the chance to sit down with him and crossing over podcasts for a bit. But anyway, I think that's about it. I don't think I have much more that I've been drinking on of note. But I'm just, look, I am so incredibly excited for Bourbon and Beyond next week. I hope you all are too. It's been since 2022 that I've been there, so 3 years. I had to take off in 2023 because we were moving. And in 2024, which is last year, we were expecting our second child, literally like the week that Bourbon and Beyond was happening. And so it didn't make sense for me to be gone. And I just needed to be home. So it's going to be an incredible time getting to return. I've been working on getting interviews lined up all this week. I'm very, very excited for some of the folks who have already committed. There's still some requests that are coming in as well. It's always cool when I get requests from musical artists that I haven't even reached out to, asking if they can be on the show during Bourbon and Beyond. Just a very, very awesome experience. But yeah, I look forward to it. And depending on the load of the volume of interviews and content that I wind up recording, episode 399, which is what is going to wind up being next week's episode, might be broken up into two parts, so that episode 400 can be as big and as robust as possible. I don't want to diminish the value, I guess, of what episode 400 is going to be, by making it, part two of a swath of interviews from Bourbon and Beyond. But regardless, I hope you're looking forward to it. I hope that you, if you're going to be at Bourbon and Beyond, hit me up at my Bourbon Pod, or shoot me an email. This is mybourbonshop@gmail.com. Let me know. I'd love to see you there. There were, of course, winners from the giveaway we did on Instagram for tickets, for wristbands, whatever. Going to be hitting up those folks, seeing them at the festival as well. Going to be a great week. And yeah, that's my little plug, I suppose, for Bourbon and Beyond coming up. Always excited for that festival. All right, folks, we got a triple review this week for you. It is all three of the 2025 editions of the Heaven Hill Grain to Glass bourbons. We're going to start with the regular rye bourbon. It's a high rye bourbon that was distilled in 2018. 105 proof, 6 years old. We got a wheated bourbon that is 106.6 proof and also 6 years old. And we also have a rye whiskey that is 105.2 proof and, surprise, surprise, 6 years old. This is quite the change from last year's whiskeys as well. Last year, the barrel entry proofs were all 125, whereas this year they were all 107. And of course, the bottling proofs are going to be much lower this year than they were last year. The only product that was around the same bottling proof was the regular bourbon. By regular, I mean high rye. But that being said, though, all pretty similar just in terms of the actual process of creation. Let me see if I can pull up the actual mash bills here, and I don't think that their website has them, and I apologize for that. No. Oh, well. Thanks, Heaven Hill, for not providing that. Oh, well. We tried. Anyway, we're going to start with the bourbon, like I said, and move our way through the lineup. I have tasted the bourbon and the rye prior to today, but I've not done them on a podcast. So if you do not normally watch my live streams on Thursday nights on youtube.com/thisismybourbonpodcast or twitch.tv/mybourbonpod, get around those. I do some fun stuff that I think you would really, really enjoy. It's good times over there. And you can, hang out with the people who also watch or listen to the podcast regularly. Or they just only watch the live streams, which is odd, I think. Maybe they're just not podcast people. I don't know. Maybe this is your first time ever checking out one of the podcast episodes. Anyway. Bourbon coming in again at 105 proof. Now, if you remember my or our review from last year, we tried all three of these products together at the same time because that's how they were released. These were released in three different waves. Originally, it was the high rye bourbon, then it was the rye whiskey, and then finally the wheated bourbon. Not sure why they staggered it this year. Not saying that it's better or worse. I'm just confused, I suppose. I just don't really know the rhyme or reason behind it. So I waited until I had all three to actually do a full episode on it. But I have, again, tried the bourbon and the rye prior. But on last year's episode, we were able to do all three of them at the same time. The bourbon itself, the high rye bourbon, was our least favorite, and it was kind of a toss-up just depending on what we were feeling between the rye and the wheated bourbon as to which was our favorite. But it was pretty obvious that we were not huge fans of the high rye bourbon. So we'll see how that shakes out this time. The nose is quite muted, I will say, on the bourbon. There's like hints of grain. And I don't know, like bits of ethanol. I mean, it's just not very prominent. Truthfully, for $100, this doesn't really go very far. It's spicy up front. You get a lot of the corn, especially towards the middle of the palate. Not a lot of barrel influence, maybe towards the back end, where there's also kind of like a circus peanut note. But overall, I mean, I'm just not that impressed with this release. It's really not my favorite. I don't think I have. Yeah, I don't have the bourbon from last year nearby, or I would compare it. But I don't even think I remember. I think that I was just like underwhelmed more than anything by last year's release. Whereas with this, I'm kind of just straight up pretty put off by it. I think that it's really not doing it for me. I'll be honest with you. I also think that this is not going to be the standard review episode where I do nose, palate, finish, and price. I might do nose, palate, and finish because it would get a little bit too in the weeds with everything, but it's just a lot of like numbers getting flown around. Maybe I'll just do this real quick. Nose is like a 1.5. Palate is also a 1.5. Finish is almost non-existent. It's a 1. $100 is tough on this. I appreciate what they're doing with this project, but I don't think the project itself warrants what is really going on with this particular bourbon this particular bourbon specifically. Gosh. I don't know. I might give just like across the board price score at the end. I think I'll do that. Okay, moving on to the wheated bourbon at almost 107 proof, but 106.6. The nose just kind of smells like Twizzlers. Twizzlers and cigar ash. A little bit of leather. Slight bit of orange zest. I mean, it's definitely better than the first nose. There is a lot of tobacco on this nose. I will say that much. Interesting. Oddly enough, there is more flavor to the wheated bourbon. Not in like just so much that I feel like it's, something to go insane over. But it's certainly like a respectable bourbon. Like, I'll be very honest about it. It's definitely not the Old Fitz bottled and bond that I had at the beginning of the show. I'm not even saying that it has to be, but it's in a very similar price range. It is a premium product from Heaven Hill. It is supposed to represent what a more elevated process of creating bourbon can produce, can represent, but it's leaving a little bit of something on the table to be desired. There is, again, little to no finish. I don't understand what happened with this one. There is a lot up front that is in the, like, it's kind of like coffee ice cream. A little brittly. But it drops off pretty quickly. What is there on the finish goes kind of bitter, which I don't love. Just such an interesting release overall. Anyway, nose, probably the strongest point here. 3.5. I actually quite like the nose. Palate is a 2.5. And the finish is a 1.5. I mean, it's just kind of a downward slope, unfortunately. Oh boy. Okay. Well, we're really hitting the high notes here, folks. Moving on to the final release. Well, I mean, it was the second release, but it's the final release that I'm testing out. It's the rye whiskey coming in at 105.2 proof. Finally, something that has character. It's got something of note for sure. This is more like classic rye. The rye that you first try that really makes you feel like you could expand your horizons beyond just being a bourbon drinker. Is it anything like out of this world? I don't think so, but it's certainly not going to send you into a spiral feeling like you're wasting your time with it. The real question here is, of course, the 6-year-old age statement and the $100 price point. Like, ooh. Mm-hmm. Easily the best palate. And the best finish, without question. Both are just coated in like brown sugar and orange zest. Wintergreen, mint. Oh, that's so nice. If you're watching the video version, I closed my eyes. I was enjoying it so much. That is delightful. That is so good. Oh. I needed something at least to make me feel like all hope was not lost. Yeah, that's excellent. All right. Nose. 3. Palate and finish, both a 4. Easy. So, I mean, obviously the rye was the highest score with an 11 before the price. The wheated bourbon comes in at a 7.5. And the high rye bourbon comes in at a 4 before the price. $100 a bottle for all three. Well, excuse me, $100 a bottle. So, I mean, if you want $300 plus tax, that, and that's MSRP. That's before you consider moving into other markets. That's before you might consider paying secondary, which I definitely don't think I would recommend for these outside of maybe the rye. The rye is really good. I don't think it's quite as special as last year's, but it is definitely up there with something that you should at least try one time. It's a very strange lineup this year. Overall, though, I like the showcase here of, having grains grown specifically for Heaven Hill from, local farmers, and then that goes into, the product that is distilled, and it's a celebration of, the community and everything, and it is a very cool product and a very cool project as well. Not everything's going to be a rousing success 100% of the time. Do I love Heaven Hill? Of course I do, but I'm going to be critical of products when I see fit. I haven't loved every Old Fitz Bottled and Bond. I haven't loved every release of Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. I haven't, loved everything that they've done. It just is how it is. As a lump score for the price, I mean, I think I'm going to go with a 3. I don't think that I can go much higher than that. Which, the high rye bourbon's going to sit at a 7. The wheated bourbon's going to go to a 10.5, and the rye is going to go to a 14 out of 20. So if you're going to pick up any of them, I recommend the rye for sure. I I am nothing if not honest, but I do appreciate Heaven Hill for sending the samples of all three of these. And now we're going to go crazy, and we're going to make a Pursuit Series style triple mash whiskey that may or may not be drinkable. I don't know. We'll see. And we'll also see if Heaven Hill continues to send me product. I don't know. We'll find out. I never did get a bottle of the Old Fitz 7-year from them. And I don't know why in particular. It was very strange to not receive that. Maybe it's because I have been critical of the Old Fitz bottled in bonds in the past. I don't know. It's hard to make heads or tails of that kind of thing. But it's time for me to move into a segment that is not, something that I get to do every week, but I do love the chance to do it when I get the opportunity. It is known as Barrel Rings. It is a segment that you can participate in by calling and leaving a voicemail or texting the phone number 859-428-8253. Once again, that's 859-428-8253. Leave me a voicemail. Send me a text message. I will listen to it or read it out here on the show. I got 2 this week. Been banking it up for a little while. The first one is from Jared, the regular dad himself. And he's got a little bit of a criticism for me over a hot take I had on, I think it was also on the podcast, but on the pregame chats. So let's hear what Jared had to say.
Hey, what's up, Perry? It's Jared here. I just had a quick comment on that last episode. You had your whole high-proof hot take and pregame chat rant about how you don't like AI and you feel it's forced into too many things and it's just not ready and it can't be trusted and yada, yada, yada. You sound like a boomer complaining about the internet. That's really how it comes across. But I found it interesting that then when you're pushed to, when Shade asked you how you're going to fix driving if you were elected, your solution to the driving problem is AI. You wanted to integrate AI into every single motor vehicle to not only keep tabs and evaluate people's driving, but then to administer a series of more and more severe punishments based on the AI's evaluation of your driving performance and the language that you're using. So I do like the AI not only is going to electrocute me while I'm driving, but then is also going to limit my First Amendment rights to freedom of speech. That's fantastic. I love your anti-constitutional AI that you don't even like yourself. So it was just good to see that your views of AI are about as consistent as Star Wars uses of the Force. So it's good consistency there.
Well, first of all, Jared, I appreciate you as always. Thank you for supporting what it is I do here. This is my Bourbon Podcast. I think you misconstrued my driving enforcement measures by insinuating that if I were to get elected as a local officer, now this was from a few episodes ago at this point, where I was asked if I were to get elected as a local official, what would I do to improve people's ineptitude when it comes to using their turn signals. And Jared's insinuation here is that my enforcements were methods that were considered to be artificial intelligence, when that's in fact incorrect. These are going to be, in effect, methods that are built into your car that are strictly mechanical in nature and would be at its core responsive to your actual physical, your physiological nature, right? So it's not necessarily that your car is listening to you and responding to your actions, but it would be that you're in a sense hooked into your car, right? By strapping into your vehicle, you are co-signing your I don't want to say rights, but the way that you would consider yourself to be an operator in some ways. So the insinuation here that I am of two minds about artificial intelligence is wholly untrue, unfortunately. And I reject the notion that I, in many ways, disagree with the implementation of artificial intelligence into my everyday life while still, trying to embrace it ubiquitously in other ways. It's just complete slander from Mr. Jared here, Mr. Regular Dad. However, I do appreciate him as always. So, as I said, I have another one here. It's from Mike Schneider.
Hey, Perry, it's Mike Schneider. I'm in the middle of a dry week, a self-imposed dry week. I still adhere to the Whiskey Vault / Whiskey Tribe quarterly dry weeks. I find it a nice little break, reset the old palate, and just kind of focus on different things during the week. Is that something you like to do every once in a while throughout the year, a self-imposed dry spell, or do you just take the dry spells as they come? Thanks. Have a wonderful week.
Michael, appreciate you. I don't have the self-control that you do. I'll be very honest. I take the dry spells as they come. And part of that is because of the way that my schedule operates these days, and the way that my life is as crazy as it is. It just unfortunately I can't look. Everybody always says, and I say this too, and I have actively made this change over the past few years. I mean, it's something that, Mike is a fairly new listener to the show, fairly new watcher of the show. So he might be a little unfamiliar with what, was my weight loss journey starting in 2023. And, I'm still on that journey, of course, but like having to actively, consciously decide to drink less and make healthier eating choices and everything. And like, coming off of the pandemic to like go back and look at the first time I was on It's Bourbon Night all the way back in 2017. This was in May of 2017 or June of 2017. I'm much thinner than I am now. It just, comes with the territory of creating content around drinking alcohol and, being now more conscious of consuming it. It's important, and I try to be better about it, and especially because, now I am a dad too. And it's not that there is like inherently anything bad about doing a dry week or anything. It's just not something that's in like my lexicon necessarily. I probably should do it here or there. But yeah, I definitely, play video games less than I used to. And not necessarily saying that's like healthy for me to do that less, but it's less screen time, of course. Like, I think about this often. On a regular day, I am typically in front of no less than 3 screens for 8 to 9 hours a day. Like, I'm sitting in front of 4 right now. Like, I've got my 3 computer screens and my phone. And could I use less screen time? Absolutely. But I work from home. I have a computer job. And it's just something that I have to deal with on a regular basis. So, like, if I were to take a screen break or, a dry screen week or whatever, that would mean I wouldn't get to work. Like, there's no alternative for me in that capacity. It's just not something that functions operationally within my life necessarily. But on the weekends, like, I should be better about, getting off of my phone more. Like, it's just the reality of it. I have 2 small kids. I should just get off of my phone. I should get away from my phone. I should be more present. That's all it is. My eyes need a break. My brain needs a break. My humanity needs a break from being present. Not being present, but from being absorbed by what is going on my screen. But yeah, it's to answer your question. Yeah, I need to just be better about it in general. But yeah, that's. I hope that I answered your question. But anyway, high proof hot takes for this week. I don't think I have anything. No, I think I'm good. Tips and bits, though, things that I want to recommend for you to watch, read, listen to, simply just enjoy, that I have also been enjoying recently. And boy, let me tell you, I got a couple of things that I would like for you to listen to specifically this week. There is a band out of Lexington, Kentucky that I just heard at the it was the Chevy Chase Street Fair here in Lexington. I had heard them for the first time a couple weekends ago. And I was like, this is a very fun little kind of rock band, not necessarily like, mainstream rock, kind of alt pop, alt rock, I don't know, alt punk maybe. It's very hard to pin them down on exactly what they are, but blues rock in some ways too. Like, they jam, they vamp, they go off, but they still have a tight structure on their songs. And it was very fun to see them, but they're called Bedford, Bedford, and very fun to see live. I caught like the tail end of their set, and I was just overly impressed by them. It's one of those things where, like, I wish that I was still regularly playing music live, because I would absolutely get together and do shows with them on on a regular basis. Like it would have been a no-brainer that we linked up with them. And then this is a band, a musical artist that I am supposed to be interviewing at Bourbon and Beyond. And I had been listening to kind of in my periphery recently, especially on Sirius XM. They have a song called I'm Not Ready to Go. And I've been diving into them a little bit since I got the opportunity to interview them. And they're definitely on like the opposite end of the spectrum from Bedford. But they're more in the realm of easy listening is not the right word, because I think once you say that, you're thinking more of like Frank Sinatra. But in these days, it means more of like singer-songwriters, right? And I think that's definitely more the category that these guys go into, but they're called Hazlet. Hazlett. They are they're comfort listening, I think, is one of the best ways to put it. I'm Not Ready to Go is such a comfort song for me too. And I really, really hope I get the chance to sit down with them and talk about their music and talk about how easy it was to connect with their songs. And it's going to be so funny. Like, yeah, within the next, 72 to 96 hours after this episode comes out, there's a very good likelihood that I'll be chatting with them as well. So, that's going to happen. And you're going to find out about it very soon. But also, this is crazy as well. So a few weeks ago, I talked about how there was a singer-songwriter that I was recommended to by Swan, former podcast co-host, named Chance Pena. And I had just kind of fallen in love with his music. And turns out he's going to be at Bourbon and Beyond. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed, man. I really am, that I'm going to be able to sit down with him and interview him. I think it's going to be a great time if it happens. But anyway, I think that does it for this week's episode. I am so unbelievably excited for Bourbon and Beyond next week. Like I said, there's a chance that episode 399, which is what next week's episode is going to be, is going to get divided up into 2 episodes, just depending on how much content I'm able to record. But regardless, I hope you're looking forward to it. You can get early access to all that on patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast from the $5 and up tier. If you want to follow the show, you can do so at mybourbonpod on social media. If you have questions or comments, this is mybourbonshop@gmail.com. You can find all of our apparel and merchandise that I actually design. I do all the design work for that because I am a graphic designer by trade at bourbonshop.threadless.com. If you have samples or bottles or anything that you want to send for me to check out on the show, you can send them to the P.O. Box. It's P.O. Box 22609, Lexington, Kentucky, 40522. All the links and, stuff, it's all in the description below, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening in your favorite podcast app. And speaking of your favorite podcast app, leave us a 5-star rating and review on your podcast app of choice, and we will read it out here on the show. There's nothing new on the Apple Podcast app, but I tell you what, next person to leave a 5-star rating and review on the podcast, the Apple Podcast app, I'm going to send you a sample pack of stuff that I have been loving on recently. That's not necessarily from recent episodes of the podcast, but I will send it to you free of charge. Free of charge. You're just gonna get some samples in the mail from your boy, because why not? And I think that about does it. Do I have anything else? No, I think we're good. I'll see you next week from Bourbon and beyond. The return, finally. I love y'all. Thank you for your support, as always. Appreciate you. See you real soon. Until then, I'm Perry, and this is my Bourbon Podcast.